Sarah was employed at Royal Bites, one of the priciest eateries in the city. The establishment was usually full of wealthy individuals, politicians, celebrities, and businesspeople. The lights were bright, the floors were shiny, and the employees were all smiling and wearing clean uniforms. Were radiant, and the dishes were consistently pristine, but Sarah didn't give any thought to the area's aesthetic appeal. She only cared about her meager monthly paycheck, which enabled her to cover the cost of the one-room apartment. She had no family after her parents passed away, so she stayed at home and bought food for the week. She was raised in an orphanage after being in a fire when she was 10 years old, and life taught her to remain resilient despite difficult, but Sarah never let suffering take away her generosity. Even when she had, it was a sweltering afternoon when it all occurred, and Sarah stood behind the counter, sharing what little she had, tidying up the cutlery and wiping the glasses. The restaurant was empty at the time. In the manager's office, boss Mr. Harris was seated at his desk when the glass door suddenly opened, and a guy entered. Sarah gasped as she looked up. The man appeared unclean. His face was covered, his clothes were faded and old, and his shirt was ripped in 3 places. With dust, his hair disheveled, and he was wearing only dusty feet instead of shoes. Broken heels, he moved slowly, as though Sarah's heart weighed down each step. Plummeted, this man appeared different from the many impoverished people she had seen in her life. He didn't scream or beg, and he didn't even look around Mr. Harris. He simply stood close to the entryway, mute and powerless. "What is this man doing here?" exclaimed the person who had observed the stranger through his office's glass window. Sarah yelled and hurried forward, asking if he was hungry so I could speak. "Sarah, this is not a charity center. We serve high class," Mr. Harris growled at him. "Before he drives away clients, folks here tell him to go." "But there are no customers right now," Sarah remarked. "With whose money?" her employer yelled. "You think we cook for animals?" gently said. "Let me just give him a little food." Sarah disregarded his rage and approached the man, saying quietly, "Sir, don't try me today, Sarah." "Are you all right?" the man asked, his eyes weary, his voice feeble. "I haven't eaten in 2 days, please. I'm quite hungry, but I don't have any money. If you can, we'll always remember it." Sarah bit her lip as she turned to face her employer, who was staring at her. "Please wait," she whispered, but her heart was fixed on the man like a lion about to charge. She entered. A large plate of jollof rice with chicken was served by the kitchen after opening one of the meal trays. She also poured a chilly water bottle and arranged everything on a tray before returning to the man with a smile and said, "Here, you can sit in that corner and eat." The man's eyes expanded. "Please don't worry about the money." "You mean?" Sarah nodded, saying, "Yes, please eat," acknowledging that you were giving me this for free. Need strength as he accepted the platter. The man's eyes were filled with tears. "Thank you," he said. He walked stealthily to a corner and sat down to eat, whispering, "God bless you." Mr. Harris barged out, saying, "Sarah, what did I just see? You gave that madman our food." Sarah turned to face him. "Looking man. He was hungry and I couldn't let him go." He yelled, "Better still go and join him outside because you're fired," after which you went to feed him with your own money. Sarah froze. "Sir, don't beg me," he said. "Get your belongings and get out of here before I contact security," the unfortunate man said, looking up with a sad and bewildered expression. Mr. Harris pointed at him as he attempted to talk, saying, "And you leave, I don't care. Whatever, you go, but don't ever return here." Sarah froze for a while, her hands shaking, having just lost because she fed a hungry man. She was able to keep her work and her only source of money. Went to the back room, grabbed her tiny purse, and emerged into the sunlight. Looked down at her shoes as she sat on the step next to the restaurant building, which was much hotter today. She had only 1,000 she had naira left in her purse, but she had no idea what to do or where to go next. She was now far from having enough money saved to open a tiny food stand. How would she even cover her rent next month? The unfortunate man emerged holding the empty plate as the door opened once more. He turned to face her and said, "You're still in this place?" he asked. Sarah forced a weak smile. "Yes, I assumed you would return home." I'm not even sure where to go, she said. I was just fired. He sat next to her on because of me. Sarah nodded. I'm sorry, and he responded. I didn't mean to bother you. No, don't apologize, she answered. You didn't make me, I didn't regret helping you since I wanted to. He stared at her for a while. You're quite sweet. I haven't met you before. Thank you, Sarah murmured quietly. I haven't seen someone like you in a long time. Sarah didn't sleep that night. She stared at the cracked ceiling while lying on her thin mattress in her small one-room apartment. Her heart was too heavy. The words, "You're fired," that her supervisor yelled at her continued to echo in her mind. There was no food in her room, and she had only 1,000 naira left. Her rent was due in 2 weeks. The house except from a couple spoonfuls of sugar and one Gary sach. Her body was she sat on the edge of her seat, exhausted yet unable to stop thinking. By dawn, her eyes were red and her stomach was empty. Bed with her tiny handbag in her hand and asking herself, what should I do? She muttered to herself, got slowly to her feet, and put on a "I must try," she remarked, referring to the spotless dress that was the last respectable one she had left. She said, maybe he will forgive me. She left her room and went directly to the Royal Bites restaurant, where she had been fired the day before, and her heart raced as she approached. Her hunger and rent forced her to move forward despite her want to turn around. She briefly stopped outside the restaurant entrance. She inhaled deeply before pushing the door open. Mr. Harris looked up at the sound, and his expression changed as he saw he yelled at her. You again. Did I not tell you never to come back here? Sarah hurriedly answered, Sir, her voice trembling. I apologize for disobeying you yesterday, but I've learned my lesson and am attempting to help someone. Please pardon me, Mr. Harris. So you come here to beg? He mocked and leaned back in his chair. Yes, sir, she responded quietly. I truly need the job. I haven't eaten since yesterday, and I have no money. My rent is due soon. Slowly shaking his head, he said, You want me to forget that you gave us food? Sarah dropped her head and apologized to a homeless man who appeared insane, saying, The restaurant is your personal kitchen. Mr. Harris added, Please, it won't happen again, with a chilly smile. Sarah, you truly want this job back, she said quietly, and she nodded rapidly. Yes, sir, He folded his arms and said, I'm willing to do anything. Just give me another chance. Yes, sir, he grinned once more, but his eyes were different this time. They appeared dirty. All right, he added. You know I've been pleading with you for a long time. Just give it to me for one night, and I'll return your job. Sarah blinked and said, I don't understand, but he moved closer and said, Don't pretend that everything will be all right and nobody will notice after just one night with me. Sarah retreated and he responded, Sir, that's incorrect. You're a married man. Sir, she began slowly, my wife is not here and she doesn't need to know. Angry now. I came here because I'm hungry, not because I'm cheap. I thought you were going to help me. Not this, he chuckled and said. You think I'll just forgive and forget you for what you did? I didn't make you look like anything when you made me look foolish in my own restaurant. I did what was yes. He came forward once more. This is your last opportunity to give me what I desire, or Sarah looked at him in disbelief. Forget about your salary. What do you mean? Forget about my salary. I worked for it. You wave. His hand, I paid for the food you provided that filthy crazy man with your money. That's your punishment, sir. He grinned maliciously as she sobbed. You can't do that, I earned that money. Then follow my instructions, and I'll reimburse your money. We'll be okay after just one night. Sarah's chest burned with rage, but she never said, You dirty fool. Married guy, you are filthy. Mr. Harris's face, and I will never give myself to you. Not for money or anything else. Flushed red. You believe I'm like those females you use and dump because I'm poor. How dare you talk to me like that? She yelled. You're lucky I even looked at you, and he yelled. Do you even take good? God will judge you, she added, because you smell like the street you came from. Tears in your eyes, you claim to be a manager, but you lack dignity and self-respect. Because I'm poor, you want to take advantage of me. He went to the door and opened it, saying, "Get out of my restaurant and never return. I'm leaving immediately," she said as she passed him. "But keep in mind that one day you'll respond." He murmured, "Look at her mouth. You should be punished for the way you treat people." Dirty girl that I was even trying to manage. Sarah thanked me as she walked into the sun, her body trembling, until when she arrived at the little bench outside a shuttered store, she sat down and began to cry. Everything had vanished. Because she fed a stranger, she lost her job, her pay, and her dignity. She thought for a while, and when the sun rose higher, her stomach rumbled. She sobbed and gave herself a hug. Gently, a shadow suddenly fell onto her. She looked up to see that it was the homeless man from the previous day. He stood silently with a black nylon bag wrapped around something. "You're still sitting here." "I went to ask my boss what he said, and he said that he insulted her." She wiped her eyes. "I was called derogatory things and told that he had paid for your food with my paycheck. He also said if I want my money back, I should sleep with him." The man looked astonished. She nodded, but I said no. The man sitting next to her said, "I'd rather go to sleep hungry than lose my dignity." She smiled weakly and added, "You're a strong woman, but I don't feel strong." Gave her the black nylon bag. She opened it to find that the rice and stew were still inside. She inquired, "Where did you get this?" He grinned, "I have my ways," and she thanked him, and began to eat while he silently observed her. "You know what," he replied after she searched for the reason why the world needs more people like you, because most people believe that feeding the poor is a waste of time, yet you," she grinned pitifully. "You gave me food, and today you lost everything for it." "Okay, I followed my instincts," and he nodded. "That's good because it's not the end," she said. He leaned back after finishing his meal and murmured, "Thank you for the food." Sarah's eyes were tired, her body was weak, but her heart was in too much sorrow for her to sleep that night. She continued hearing Mr. Harris's voice as she thought about what had transpired with him. His filthy offer, his insults, his evil. She wanted to forget everything, but her head was making fun of her and calling her a poor, filthy girl that even a bath couldn't clean. Was like a thorn lodged in her heart. Sarah woke up the following morning feeling worse. She was unemployed, broke, and her room was empty of food. The homeless man was eating rice. Gave her yesterday was the only food she consumed, and as she sat there, it was gone. While lying in bed, she considered her options. Her thoughts then turned to Lillian, her neighbor, who resided in the adjacent room on the same compound where Lillian had always supported her during difficult times. They had shared meals, laughed, and wept together. Sarah stood at difficult periods and occasionally sat outside to discuss life. Stepped cautiously up to Lillian's door and knocked twice, asking, "Who's there?" "It is. Come in, Sarah. The door is open." Sarah went inside and noticed Lillian seated on her room was cleaner and brighter than Sarah's, and she always had a lovely scent. She painted her nails and had a little bed. "Hey darling," Lillian replied. "You look like someone who saw a ghost. Hair and stylish clothing, what's wrong again?" "Sarah, I was sacked," she finally replied. Too exhausted to respond right away. "Lillian. What sacked? What did you do this time?" she asked, looking up abruptly. Sarah clarified. She told Lillian everything she knew about the hungry and exhausted homeless man who entered the eatery. Told her that despite the fact that he had no money, she fed him. She also told her that Mr. Harris became irate and dismissed her on the "That's not all," Sarah added. "I returned the following morning to plead with him," he added. "If I want my job or my salary back, I should sleep with him." Lillian's eyes widened. "Jesus Christ, I refused," she said. Sarah said, "I cried and sat outside for a while after he pushed me out and insulted me." "Hours?" the homeless man questioned, crossing her arms. "What happened?" "Returned with dinner, told me I'm strong and kind, and asked if I could trust him and follow him somewhere today. I'm not really sure why I consented." But Lillian got up and raised her hands. "Sarah, you are incredibly stupid. How can you gather food from a are you angry, dirty homeless man?" Sarah seemed surprised. "But I was hungry. So you opened your lips and took food from a beggar's hands. Do you know where he obtained it and whether it's safe?" Sarah remarked, I don't think he meant harm, and Lillian hissed. What if it came from the dustbin? He appeared clean yesterday. Loudly, you are filthy, and you believe that everyone is fine. One day you will get sick, and you will be. Lillian softened little after being unalived. Sarah, you know I having food, I would have offered it to you, but instead of calling on my door, you decided to get food from the street. Sarah remarked. I'm tired of begging and constantly running to you. I was exhausted. I felt worthless for assistance. Lillian groaned and reclined on her bed. Gazing at long before she spoke, Sarah added, This is precisely why I told you to join me in my line of work. However, you continued to deny when I informed you there was money in it. Sarah slowly looked up. Lillian arched an eyebrow, saying, What are you doing now, crying, walking around broke? Before I could never do that. And hungry, what do you gain by going through hardship when there is money waiting for you? I will, Sarah firmly stated. Don't sell my body for money. Lillian scowled. Even if I starve, I will never become like you. What's wrong with me? I don't wait for men, I don't steal, and I don't beg. To feel sorry for me, I live in the same compound as you and get compensated for my beauty. But because I made a decision, my life is better. You're busy pursuing principles, but Sarah shook her head. Maybe your decision works for you, but hunger is chasing you. Not for me. I still think that working hard and being dignified are important. Even if everyone makes fun of me, I won't change. Lillian hissed once more. And I believe you're a good girl with an empty stomach, but you're deeply in love with poverty. Good luck with that, Sarah. She got up slowly. I appreciate you listening. Where are you heading? Sarah turned to the door. Thank you. I know you care even when we argue, but please honor my choice. Lillian looked away. But I don't want to turn into someone I'll despise when I see myself in the mirror. Please don't, Sarah remarked. Come back crying again. I'm tired of wiping your tears. I understand. And then she left silently. On a certain day, Sarah resumed her job search by going door to door and asking people if they required assistance. Some instructed her to leave her number and return the following week, while others ignored her and indicated they weren't hiring. Nothing helped. She was hungry and exhausted, her legs ached, and her shoes were becoming worse. At nightfall she gave up. To arrive home ahead of schedule, take a shower and relax. The only issue was that the typical route home was lengthy, and she was already feeling feeble. People often cautioned that the old path behind some incomplete structures was a shortcut. Sarah halted for a time at the corner and looked around, saying, I'll walk fast, even though it was the fastest route. The road was dusty and silent, so she said to herself and started down the old trail. Holding her bag tightly and moving swiftly, she noticed a figure standing in front of one of the incomplete structures. She came to a stop outdoors, and the homeless man turned to face her. They both appeared shocked. You, Sarah responded. Sarah, what are you doing here? He asked as he moved closer. He said, This is where I sleep, and Sarah scowled. No, you can't. Sincerely, I spend all of my time in this building. It's not much, but it's all I have. Examine the vacant building. It had no windows, doors, beds, or anything else. Yes, you can sleep here, but no, you cannot stay here because it is dangerous. He gave a small smile, saying, If something happens to you at night, it's not the first time. Sarah shook her head, saying, Please don't be here. I've been here for a while. Join me at my house and help me manage my tiny area. He seemed shocked. No, you've done enough. I live alone, so I can't bother you again. You're not disturbing me. She moved closer. It's not much, but space is safer than here. I'm good, truly. He glanced at her and said nothing. Please don't say no, I can't go home knowing you're sleeping in a place like this. He groaned. Don't let pride stop you. Let me help you in whatever small way I can. They strolled along, neither of them saying much as they went, but if you insist, I do. When they arrived at her complex, she let him into her one-room flat by opening the door and moving aside. This is he looked around and nodded. Thank you. My space, she added. It's not much, but it's better than outside. Why are you helping me? Aren't you afraid of a homeless man like me? He asked her after a little period of quiet. He added, But you don't know me, and Sarah glanced at him. No, I'm not scared. Maybe harmful, I could harm or steal from you. If you were that kind of person, she said, you would have. He looked down and said, most people still don't want to sit close to me, much less invite me to. I'm not most people, she remarked, and I understand what it's like to have nothing. I've slept hungry and pleaded. I've sobbed in the dark for help, and I won't pass someone in need. Not while I have a little room to talk. He nodded slowly. You're not like me, Sarah remarked. You're risking a lot for someone you barely know. He glanced at her once more. I think kindness still matters. There was stillness after she shrugged. Maybe, but I'm willing to take the chance. Once more he murmured. Thank you, Sarah, for everything. You're welcome, he said. Answered. Sarah returned home from her job search 2 days later, exhausted. Dusty and hungry, she noticed her neighbor Lillian standing outside the compound, frowning as she opened the gate. Sarah said, Good evening, Lillian. But Lillian didn't answer. Sarah halted as she looked at her angrily, asking, What's wrong? Lillian folded her arms and said, I had no idea you were this low, Sarah. I went to your room a few minutes ago to find you, but your door wasn't closed, so I opened it. What are you talking about? Sarah's heart fell as she saw a filthy man laying on the floor. She stepped. Please don't call him unclean. He's my friend and I'm only trying to help him because he's homeless. Lillian scoffed at him, saying, Your friend, is that what you call it now? Sarah sighed. So your life has become into sharing your apartment with a homeless man, Lillian said. You don't. I completely understood what Lillian meant when she said, You don't have any food. Lacking a job, having nothing, and now adding a jobless, odorous man to your troubles. Is this your strategy? Sarah shook her head for the future, saying, You have no idea what he's been through, and you do. And so you now trust he has never attempted to hurt me, so don't be afraid for your life, street men you just met. Sarah stared her in the eye. Lillian clapped her hands, acknowledging that he had provided me with food while I was in need. Slowly. Whoa, a homeless man fed you. How kind and lovely. Perhaps you. Sarah decided to go inside after deciding to wed him, but Lillian followed her. Lillian. Sarah replied, Talk to you, Sarah. Don't leave me. I'm exhausted. I've spent the entire day walking in this heat in search of job, but I haven't found any, and I lack the courage to quarrel with you. Ought to have joined me long ago, Lillian remarked. You believe you're superior to me, but you're in pain. At least I may not have money, but I don't sleep next to beggars. Sarah paused at her door and turned to face her. Have peace, Lillian growled. I don't exchange my body for money, and I don't despise people because they are impoverished. Loudly. Keep lying to yourself, Sarah, that your new acquaintance won't come to my door when you're hungry. David was reading an old magazine he had taken from the garbage when she opened her door. He looked up as he whispered softly as she walked in. Is everything okay? She mustered a grin. Don't worry. He nodded and I heard her yelling, Just neighbor drama, and Sarah sat down. He looked down. And she's upset that I brought you here. Perhaps I should leave. I don't care what, she said swiftly. I'm causing trouble between you and your neighbor, but you're not going anywhere. She claims that I'm concerned about doing the right thing and that if I ever abandon you to sleep in that unfinished structure again, I'll never. I'm sorry. He stared at her for a while. Sarah, you have a good heart. Sarah was sitting on the floor the following morning after she gave me a feeble smile. I hope. She looked up and smiled as the man remarked, You've never asked me my name. She was folding her wrapper at the time. My name is Samuel, she said, and he nodded slowly. That's true, I actually forgot. Nice name. I'm an orphan. I lost both of my parents when I was a young boy. Life has been difficult. She gave him a pitying look and said, I apologize. He waved his hand. Are you not job hunting today? He asked, looking at her once again as if it didn't matter, and she shook her head. Slowly. I'm exhausted from walking around and being rejected. Some men even told me to have sex with them before they would offer me a job, but I am incapable of doing that. Samuel. After giving her a long look, she remarked, Sarah, you deserve better. You're a good woman. She sat down more closely. Thank you, but Samuel gave her a stern look and said, "I really like you, Sarah. Sometimes it seems like being good only brings pain. Like you're bold, modest, and kind." She was silent for a second before grinning. "I also like you," he said with a giggle, adding in jest, "Don't look at my dressing now. Normally I'm a kind guy. I'm so attractive that you'll even fall for me." She laughed aloud when she saw me, and I won't lie. "I know you're right." Samuel grinned and said, "You're handsome. Now that we both like each other, perhaps we have to strike a contract." She arched an eyebrow at the type of agreement he stated. "I want. You should visit the restaurant where you used to work today," she scowled. She gave him a dubious look. "There's something waiting for you there," he replied. "How do you know?" He smiled. "Just go trust." She said, "Maybe," to which he grinned. "Are you a prophet now? You're starting to frighten me. Are you even human, or are you a ghost?" She shook her head. "No, Sarah, I'm not a ghost, just leave. If I go there, you'll see that." She briefly glanced at him. He held up two hands, and she got up and put on her clothes. "If nothing happens, I'll come back and laugh at you all day." Since she had no means of transportation, she left the house in her cleanest clothing and walked the entire distance to the restaurant. Her heart was racing as she received the money. She wasn't sure what to anticipate, but something about the way when she arrived at Royal Bites restaurant. She stood outside the glass door for a short while after Samuel's words given her hope. Everything appeared the same as she walked in gently. A woman with a warm appearance stood at. "Good afternoon, Ma," Sarah said to the receptionist, who looked up and grinned. "Good afternoon." Sarah went forward apprehensively. "How may I serve you?" "My name is I used to work here, Sarah, but I was fired a few days ago. I came because someone said to me, 'You're Sarah.'" The woman briefly glanced at her face. Sarah looked perplexed and said, "Yes," and the woman's face brightened. "You're the one we've been waiting for." The woman nodded once more. "Yes, 2 days ago, a new owner purchased the business. Instructed our head office to assign you the manager job in this branch." Sarah exclaimed. "What?" "Yes," the woman said. "The new supervisor told her that she might return to work tomorrow, and that she must be treated with the utmost respect." Sarah's mouth widened in the morning. "Are you serious, Ma? Are you serious?" The woman exclaimed. "Congratulations, Sarah." Sarah cried in surprise and joy. "Jesus, thank you, God." She held her chest while trembling with excitement and repeatedly said, "Yes, manager," the supervisor said. "You're honest, kind, and hardworking." Sarah couldn't believe it. The woman reiterated, "You're highly recommended." "Stop grinning. If you're ready, you can resume tomorrow." Sarah appeared perplexed. "I apologize, Ma. Could you just tell me the new boss's name?" The woman trembled. She said, "I don't know. We haven't met him yet. He gave us very strict instructions and sent everything through the office." Sarah stayed motionless for a few moments, knowing that he was the new owner and that we had to comply. The woman nodded. "You're sure about this? Welcome back, Madam Manager." On the verge of tears, Sarah clutched her chest and muttered, "Oh my God," thanked the woman once more before hurriedly leaving the restaurant. She sprinted rather than walked home, and when she arrived at her courtyard, she pushed the door open and went inside, where Samuel was reading the same old magazine on the floor. He looked up and Sarah dropped her purse and stood in front of him, grinning. "Welcome, Samuel." He nodded. "Yes. Something is going to happen today at the restaurant." "Owner. I understand." "Good," he replied when they offered me the management position. Quietly, "You deserve it, but they said that everything was sent through even though they don't know the owner's name yet." The landlord knocked on the door of the head office, and Sarah got up to answer it. He appeared irate. He simply folded his hands and glanced around the room without saying hello, so it's accurate when he says, "I heard it with my own ears. You now live with a crazy homeless man." Sarah inhaled deeply. "He's not crazy, sir." The landlord turned to face Samuel. "I only know that your rent has gone up, Sarah, and you're even standing up for him. That's your business." "I'm startled, sir, because you've made my house a haven for insane individuals." Sarah came forward. "But you are unable to pay the new rent, so please give me no time." He shook his head. "You had better give me my money by tomorrow or else you'll be gone. However, sir, I'm not here for this is your last warning stories." He turned and left, and Sarah shut the door slowly and took a seat with her head in her hands. Samuel gave her a solemn look and said, He shook his head and replied, "Don't be sorry, everything will be okay. I brought you here, and now look at what's happening," she remarked. She glanced up at him and said, "How come I don't even have the new rent?" He said, "Be fine." He grinned and replied, "Next tomorrow. Let's take things one step at a time." Sarah prepared for work the following morning. Her first week as manager was going well, and the employees appreciated her. Customers were satisfied because she worked hard every day to ensure everything went without a hitch, but she still wasn't sure how she found the new owner or received the job. A week later, the landlord returned, this time bringing 2 guys. He banged loudly. "Where's my money?" Sarah asked as she opened the door. He yelled, "Sir, I beg you. I just started and haven't been paid yet. You think I'm kidding, but you have to go today since I granted you extra days of work." The landlord responded, "Pack your things now," and she said, "Please, sir. We don't have anywhere to go. That's not my business." With tears in her eyes, Sarah returned to the room and picked up her tiny bag and some clothes. Samuel got to his feet. She muttered, "We'll go to my place," and he said, "Are you ready?" "I don't even know where to go," she said. "Your place?" she asked, slowly looking up. "Yes," he replied. "Follow me." They moved. She was quiet, disoriented, and exhausted as Samuel pulled up in front of a "Whose car is this?" Sarah paused as the driver of a black automobile parked beside the intersection got out and opened the door. Samuel responded, "Ours." They got into the car and drove through the city. Sarah remained silent as the car came to a stop in front of a number of large buildings and pulled into a private road with security. Sarah stared at the house in confusion as she saw a large white mansion with flowers and pricey automobiles outside. "Samuel, where are you?" "We." He grinned, "Home." She glanced at him swiftly. "Home." "Come with me," he said as he got out and assisted her in getting out of the car. They then entered the mansion, which had a spacious living room. With brilliant lights, white couches, and gold drapes. 2 employees met them at the door, and Sarah was trembling. "Samuel." He turned to her and said softly, "This is my house. Please talk to me about it. I own Royal Bites and a number of other companies, so I'm not homeless." Sarah stepped back in astonishment. "But I was wondering why you were dressed that way." "I dressed like a pauper to test how everyone would treat me because I was sick of bogus love. Looked down on me, even my own employees, but you fed me and stood up for me. I granted you the manager position because you welcomed me into your house and treated me like a human being." Sarah. "I don't think this is true, Samuel," she said, carefully sitting down and hiding her mouth. Tears streamed down Sarah's cheeks as she whispered, "You passed the test. You proved that there are still good people in this world." He knelt in front of Sarah and said, "I thought I was helping you. I didn't know you were the one who would change my life. Since the day you brought me food, I've loved you. I just needed to be with you. You must have loved me for who I am, not what I possess." She grinned as she glanced at him. "Samuel, I love you." Through her tears. "Whether you're wealthy or not, I already love you." He gave her a hard hug and said, "Welcome home, sweetheart." Meanwhile, Lillian felt ill. She initially believed the pain to be normal, but after a week it worsened, so she went to the hospital. After numerous testing, the doctor, "You have a serious kidney problem. You need an urgent transplant or you won't," he remarked, giving her a serious look. "Survive." Startled, Lillian clutched her chest and began to cry. She inquired. The doctor informed her that it would cost millions of dollars. She nearly passed out when she grabbed up her phone and began phoning everyone she knew, including her former boyfriends, but none of them answered. All the men who earlier admired her attractiveness have now stopped doing so. One sugar daddy contacted her and blocked her. Another stated he had traveled. She grieved all night long, ignoring her, remembering Sarah, The same Sarah she had once made fun of Sarah, whom she had insulted for assisting a homeless man while crying. "Hello Sarah," she called her. "I know I don't deserve your help, but I'm dying from kidney failure, and no one is I need your help, yet all the men I trusted are gone. Please pardon me." Sarah remained silent for a few seconds before saying, "Lillian, I've already forgiven you and will send you the money." Lillian sobbed. "Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate that." Sarah hung up and called her personal assistant, telling her to send funds to the hospital right away. The procedure was completed the following morning, and Lillian was spared. A week later, Sarah and Samuel were married in a stunning ceremony. Their photos were taken the following day. Were found in newspapers, blogs, and television stations. Sarah was now referred to as the waitress who wed her homeless client, but those who were aware of the true circumstances referred to it as something better. Referred to it as a lesson and a reminder that good deeds always yield rewards. They relocated to a larger mansion outside of the city. Sarah established a non-profit organization to assist the homeless and underprivileged girls seeking employment. Lillian also made she joined Sarah's team and advised young ladies to work hard and not rely on men. Be courteous and respectful to others. Sarah and Samuel enjoyed a happy life together. Sarah never lost sight of her origins and never felt proud of herself as she had 2 children and carried on helping others in silence. Advised everyone to treat everyone with dignity since the person you assist today might end up helping you tomorrow. Concluded with a strong message that love is more than money, rather than merely a wedding. Good people still exist, and kindness is not a sign of weakness. What lessons can we learn, dear viewers? Did you learn anything from this dramatic story? If so, please share your opinions in the comment section below. Give us a thumbs up, tell your friends about it, and click the subscribe button. Remember to enable notifications so you don't miss any of our most recent developments.